And it works. Oh god, that actually worked. Oh, hello, Dan. Hello, Dan 2. I see you both on there. Hello, and welcome to yet another stream of me whiling away 2 hours before I have to do something else. My name is Fiona. I use she/her pronouns. I am the host of What Am I Rolling, a twice-monthly RPG one-shot podcast. I'm also, I guess, semi-streamer now, where basically I do streams like this, which are too long, didn't read tabletop RPGs, where I take an RPG, usually a quick start, and I read it through and say what I like about it, etc. Hope you're all doing very well today. I've had a very productive day in terms of admin, which has been wonderful, but also incredibly frustrating. I'm just waiting to hear back from one person, and then I can send off the final thing, and then I wait for 30 days. And then I get that thing, and then I can send off the final thing, and then wait until I hear something else. So that's where I am just now, which is good. I also did some very scary things, that is like going to the doctors, which shouldn't be scary, but my god, having someone question you and you're just there like a ball of anxiety going, look, I don't know, the app's telling me this. So yeah, that's been my life today, but I have treated myself to a few things, and of course this wonderful stream, which I was looking forward to. Later on tonight we've also got our secret film club, not so secret, where myself and my co-host Hamilton are going to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I cannot wait for, because it's one of my favourite films. Hamilton has not seen it, and so we did double check that it is on Prime though, because I was like, please let it be on Prime, because yeah, I don't know how much I'll be speaking through it, because I'll just be there like this going but yeah, it's one of my favourite films, so I'd recommend checking it out. Dreaded admin day. No, I know, Dan, trust me, I know, I've been putting it off for months. And then it was all done in an hour. But I also got some extra bits done too, so I'm feeling pretty productive. But less about me, more about RPGs. So this one actually was suggested by Hamilton, because he was sort of saying that this looked really cool, really liked the aesthetic of it, and also a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours called Sharmini, who's on RPG Geeks and is currently in my Alien stream, or will be, unfortunately she couldn't make the first premiere, is in an actual play of the first adventure that's come out of it. So let's not beat around the bush. Today we are reading through The Troubleshooters by Helmgast, or published by Helmgast, and it is described as an action-adventure tabletop role-playing game set in an exciting and adventurous 1960s in the style of Franco-Belgian comics. If you don't know what those are, I mean, I had to have a look up just to double-check, but of course if you've ever read or watched The Adventures of Tintin, like I did on repeat several when I was a small child being sick, or reading through them and not really understanding how big an implication it was to have cigarettes in the Tomb of the Pharaoh, or going to the moon as technically a 15-year-old journalist. That's the kind of vibe we go for. Also, Asterix the Gaul is technically Franco-Belgian, but it's not the same. It definitely gets inspiration, I think, from Tintin. And I'm sure there are loads of other ones out there, by the way. I appreciate, I'm not a bigger nerd as I think I am. But I'm just going to go over to the big screen. No, use this one instead. Big screen. Hooray! The other thing as well, not that anyone cares, but every stream I try and do something different. And the thing that I've done differently with this stream is that I've changed where the captions come from. Because essentially there is a great resource called Web Captionator that was brilliant. Just did everything, and it looked really good. It was all free, etc. It's being decommissioned in October, and I was like, well, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be really doing this quite a bit, and I'll forget about it. Is there a way I can find another place? So I found another place. I won't go too long into the nitty gritty of it, but I've had to sign up to GitHub, and I was just like, this is one step beyond what I'm doing to. So if anyone's got any free, accessible web captioner-like alternatives, I was looking at some plugins as well for OBS, because that's what I'm using. I've got to be honest, anything that's like you need to go into the source programming and do something, that's one step beyond me. So if anyone's got any suggestions on that, please let me know. I'm not a big fan of these ones because it looks like I'm shouting. I'm like, ah! And they also disappear if I don't speak for 4 seconds, and I don't know how to fix it. But hey, trying something new each time we do a stream. But yes, here we go. Troubleshooters. This is the website, Helmgast. It is a European website. I don't know what the SE sort of extension is, I'm going to say it's something in France or maybe Belgian, because it makes sense too. What I love about this, first of all, is this is kind of the main sort of plate image that you see on the front cover, and I'll go down and there'll be an actual copy of the book in a second. But it literally, I was like, oh, so it's like Tintin. And I instantly got that vibe from it. They have, from what I've briefly seen of it, an evil organization called Octopus, which Dan, I was like, oh, maybe we need to contact a friend of ours about this. One of our friends goes by the pseudonym of Octopus, and they're just, in this setting, they are an evil organization that you'll presumably... I don't know yet. I don't know if it is journalists or adventurers or travellers. I think it's mostly travellers because, not to spoil anything per se, but there's the character sheet is like a page from a passport, and you fill it in and you can make it really small and stick it into somewhere, and the little booklets you get, like I'll go on to, actually, you know what, why don't I just do it now? If I go onto the actual store page, first of all, you get this absolutely beautiful deluxe cover of the Troubleshooters with the Octopus logo on it. That's the U-boat mystery, so that's the one that Sharmony and her team are playing through just now. But if I go down, you get these passport sets. That's your little booklet that you keep your character sheet in, and you can have different I like a good prop. That's all I can say. They've also got, dice and pictures. But look, how cool is that? That feels very immersive. I really love that. Heck, you're a hacker now. I'm really not. I signed up to GitHub and then I was like, no, this is too much. Delete. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, so just to say, so this got kickstarted, I believe, last year, and is slowly coming out this year with the PDF already be out, and then the core standard rulebook and the deluxe ones also come out. And their first mystery is this U-boat mystery, which we're not going to look into today, but it's like a full-on campaign from what I understand. The other cool thing is that they do have this page called the Archive, which gives you the quick play rules, which is what we're going to look at today. And then here are sort of like basically quick play scenarios that I believe they ran at various cons for playtesting and stuff. So, and they've got some cracking names, so like How Robo Santa Stole Christmas, the Minonian Affair, the extended edition. And then you've got some maps. Fabulous is another one there. Feeling Fabulous is a hit song by the Fabulous Fantastics, the band. Oh, so that must be a track. Yes, a Spotify track there. The Silverian Job, Full Speed in Galviero. Again, my pronunciation is going to be rubbish. Here's some other things as well, some articles about it. Travel Like a King. So this was the thing I was going to show. I'm going to move my thing over a little bit. So this is a free download. It's basically like a travel pass that's like you print out, fold it like a boarding pass that you could give to people on Air Majestic, Travel Like a King. And then you get, I'm pretty sure it's quite small on the overlay, but it's like a proper boarding pass with all, like the detail in this is so cool. So already I'm like, I don't know what this is for, but I guess maybe it's like a summary of the adventures you've been on, and you just pop them in, and it just details that. Perhaps you got stuff there because you see for baggage and all that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely love that. So yeah, so you get a lot of free stuff, I would say. Also, emergency passport. So that's the character sheet, which is downloadable and form fillable, which I absolutely love. Great for accessibility and stuff. And then a dice roller. I can see if this actually loads. Oh god, too big. But yeah, so you could also have an online dice roller. So you get so much for being a part of this. Yeah, like getting into this game, and it already feels really immersive. So absolutely love that. But let's look at the. So that's the book there. Again, it would not look out of place if you had a lot of Tintin physical copies of the books, or the graphic novels there. So I'm going to read a little bit of this because the quick start itself, I think it's very, from the brief bit I looked at it, it's very sort of thin on the ground. Basically, it's like print this and go. There's not much fluff around it. So I thought we'd read the sort of product page and then we'll go into the quick start. So what do you do? Set in the mid-1960s in a world with mysterious temples hidden in the jungles, valleys that time forgot, mad scientists, space stations, spies with super gadgets, and villainous organizations scheming from world control, the characters in Troubleshooters live adventurous lives all over the world. No matter if it is a hunt for lost treasure, helping someone from getting their inheritance, stopping spies from stealing military secrets, or foiling the Octopus's evil plans for world domination, you and your friends simply go on adventures. The characters are drawn into other people's troubles and band together to solve them. Usually they are not affiliated with any government and are not on an official mission. Rather, adventures just happen to them, with the templates ranging from athletes and explorers to journalists and mad scientists. Characters are competent in their respective fields, but not superheroes. Okay, cool. So I guess that's a little bit like in like Call of Cthulhu, you sort of go around like an archetype of like librarian, private detective, journalist, etc. So maybe it's something as similar to that. Troubleshooters will take the characters all over Europe and across the world. They will find themselves at exotic locations, glittering metropolises, deep within the wilderness, or even in cozy country villages where they face horrible foes, spies, wild beast, just one there, mafia, mad scientists, villains, and relatives. Oh, the worst enemy of them all is relatives. Where do you do it? So the Troubleshooters is set in 1965 in a world similar to, but not exactly like our own history. There are valleys at times forgot, mysterious temples hidden, secret laboratories. Sorry, my brain had a skip then. I was like, laboratories. And I was like, no, that's not the word. Secret laboratories hidden beneath museums and picturesque little cafes on the corner. Much is the same, though. People have the same jobs, youth culture is emerging, and progression and optimism is abound. However, in this world is threatened by the evil organisation, the Octopus, trying to upend the fragile balance between the Eastern Bloc and the Western Alliance. Led by Graf von Zardrith, the Octopus is just emerging from the shadows. Ooh. How do you do it? The system is based on a D percentage task checks against the skill value. With skills, abilities, complications, and a story point economy, the system is designed from the ground up to fit the genre. Ooh, so it looks like a brand new system. Cool. Skills, abilities, and complications are recorded in the character's passport. I mean, percentage task does indicate to me, it sort of makes me think they could be like a Call of Cthulhu kind of game. And then we've got the team here, so Krista Sunderlin, they are the writer for this. Also, I think he's the main designer, sorry. The plan may be a bit ambitious. And then we've got Roger Mellon, the lead illustrator, character designer, cool. And then Dan Algstrand, the art director and graphics wizard. Oh, very cool. This is our plan for domination. So this sort of came through with the Kickstarter, what they were planning to do on this. 2020 was the Kickstarter for the core book and first adventure book, the U-Boat Mystery, and accessories. So they've released it. So autumn last year is when they released it, and now they are working on other several adventures and to release them once the core book and the first adventure is published. And then campaigns, background books, and other stuff in future. We will not reveal the details yet. And it's step 5, world domination. Very good. And there you go. Not the dreaded relative. Oh no, mother. Great. Well, with that all out of the way, let's just dive into the actual quick start. So there's no front cover for this at all. It's just quick start rules. Done. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the sort of style it takes. So again, has that sort of top third is the image itself. A cracking image, by the way. People falling out of what they call, they're not carriages. Air. Oh god, what are the lines that carry people in boxes? It's not important, it's scary. It's not a good place to travel when you're being shot at and the building you're going to, or probably leaving from, I'm guessing, is on fire. So probably not good. In some sort of maybe a Swiss Alp type location. And gotta love a good purple header there. It's much different to the previous one. Alright, let's dive in. Again, sorry for the small writing again. How does that look? Let's go in one more. I know my eyes are going, and you know what? I have to deal with it. So these rules are a compact version of the core rules in the Troubleshooters, intended to use with the quick start scenarios to run demos of the game. The quick start scenario assumes that the director of operations, the game master, already knows what role-playing games are and how they work, and can explain the role-playing to those who don't. Oh my god, director of operations, hell yeah, that sounds incredible. Okay, rolling dice. Oh, we're already on it. Troubleshooters uses 6-sided and percentile dice. And here's an example. So D percentage is the percentage dice, which is used in some task checks and some tables. And then, no, oh, I see. So we've got, I've never seen a solo table before. So the number of 6-sided dice. So if it was 3d6, it would be free 6-sided dice. And then 3dp, a pool of however many 6-sided dice. So if it was like 3dp, it would be 3 6-sided dice. And those are used in soak rolls and recovery. And then ndx, a pool of however many exploding 6 dice. So that's when you probably roll 6 on the actual dice, and that is used in damage rolls. Okay, a nice little table there, although I've never come across those writings of it before. But they're thankfully, they're about to tell us all about it. I did forget to mention that this quick start is only 33 pages long, which is nice. But of course, we know that there's not going to be any, what's the word, scenario with this one, because they've got quite a few of them already out there. Ski lift. Hello, Blue Skirt. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yes, that's probably the word I was looking for. So it's not it's a ski lift. You have it's quite more open, right? And you actually have skis on you. I know what you mean, though. It is, yeah, it's a similar kind of lift. I think there's an actual word for it, but you know what? I'll go on you for that, Blue Cast. Thank you for joining. So percentile rolls. All task checks use percentile dice, abbreviated to D percentage. For the percentile dice, you use 10-sided die, which gives you a random number between 1 and 100. You read one of these dice as 10s, yeah, and the other one as 1s, or units, if you're a UK person. Keep track of the outcome on the individual dice. Sometimes we use the 10s or the 1s of the percentage roll. The 10s will give you a random number between 0 and 9, unless you roll exactly 100, so either 0, 0 or 00 and 0. In which case, the 10s count as a 10. 10s can be capped by your skill value if they are used on a successful roll. The 1s die also gives you a random number between 0 and 9, but there's no special case for 100. The random value is mostly independent from the skill value. 1s are often used in conjunction with difficulty. Okay. So, in a task check, you compare the random number to a skill value to determine the success or failure. Sometimes percentile rolls will be used for table lookups. Cool. Oh yeah, no ski lifts here, lol. Hey, yeah, it was a better guess than mine, to be honest with you, Blue Scout. So, cool. So 6-sided dice, d6s, yes. So they're used for many rolls that are not task checks. So specifically damage, soak, and recovery rolls. If you roll several d6s, the amount of dice is a number before the d6. Yeah. Sum of dice. If d6 are used and not for damage, you just roll them and add them together. Oh, okay, so you add them together with the nd6 there. Okay, good to know. Damage rolls. So this is the ndx. Damage rolls are used used in conflict, but to inflict damage. And they range from 2dx for unarmed attacks to up to 7dx for machine guns. Oof, brutal. You use a 6-sided dice as an exploding dice pool for damage rolls. Exploding dice, that means if you roll 6s, you roll additional dice. Yeah, makes sense. So you roll n number of d6s, you may roll any 6s. If you roll any 6s, roll an additional dx for every 6 you got. Yes. Keep going until you no longer roll any 6s. Each die, that shows a 4 to 6 equals 1 point of vitality lost. Okay. Soak and recovery rolls, NDP. So soak rolls are used to reduce incoming vitality loss, usually from armor. Recovery rolls are used to recover vitality. Soak rolls are uncommon, whilst recovery rolls happen more frequently. Okay, that's good to know. I guess it depends on how much your characters are wearing like armor, or if they're just like me being, oh god, in an open ski lift. Oh no. Also, I assume sorry to go back on it. I see that'd be quite quick going down, whereas ski lift seems to take its time. But maybe I'm just. We have, you know what? I know what I would call it. We have a line in London called the Emirates line, I think it's called, where you go over the river in one of these sort of little boxy things. I've yet to do it because it sounds dreadful. But I can already feel my hands sweating as a result. So that was soak and recovery rolls. Like damage rolls, you use 6-sided dice as dice pool for the soak and recovery rolls, but unlike damage rolls, soak and recovery rolls never explode. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, so it looks like the success value is 4, 5, and 6, which is fine. Yeah, makes sense. Quite a lot of other games use that as well. Resolving actions. The Troubleshooters is played as a dialogue between the players and the director. The director usually sets their scene and describes it. Players, describe how their characters act or react. The situation then develops is reasonable or by using and interpreting the rules. Other things happen as a result. This way, you create a story together. All good. Sometimes the outcome of an action is not that clear. Sometimes you need structure to progress through a scene, or you may want a way of resolving actions that everyone agrees is fair, in quotation marks. This is when you use task resolution. It's the most basic rule of the Troubleshooters. So we're only on page 2 and already you've got it compared to some other quick starts. It doesn't have it forever. When you want to do something, describe what you do and how. If the desired outcome is reasonably liked but not guaranteed, find a fitting skill, roll percentile dice, and compare the outcome to the skill value. Is it going to be equal to or under? I assume so. This is a task check, an attempt to perform an action where there is some uncertainty regarding the outcome. That uses dice to determine what happens. When to use it? Use dice when success or failure is not assured one way or the other. If you're trying to do something daring, challenging, or dangerous, that might have some serious consequences. You might want to resist, challenge, or stop someone else. You want to use your skills to show off. Whenever you find it interesting. Don't use dice when the outcome is not interesting or relevant to the story. There's no risk, danger, or challenge. The only outcome of a success or failure is that nothing happens. You're still stuck behind that door. There's nothing stopping your character. Someone else has already made the task check to accomplish the same thing and failed. God, that is so true. You just have to go, oh, fuck. And they go, I want to do it. And you're like, no. We're just repeating the same thing until eventually luck is on our side or probability is on our side. If you want to try and help them, say so before they roll in order to make their task check easier. The character can't affect the situation in any way. So yeah, there's no like, I'm in Rome and you're in London and you're trying to break down a door. I can help. Setting the scene. Usually, we're not interested in every little detail of the story. Some parts we skip because it's not important to know when your character is using the loo. Unless an Octopus agent has planted a bomb there. Then the loo visit can be very interesting. I mean, I know, there's always that joke in role-playing games. And it's in... sorry, I look at it as if I can pick it out easily, but I've got Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Or the Haunted House on the Hill. Betrayal, it's called. And there was a joke in the first edition of the game where it's like, this house, because you reveal, basically, as you're playing through it, you reveal bits of the house, and it's sort of player generated until at some point you get enough sigils or tokens or whatever, and then the haunt will begin, and each haunt is different, so every time you play it's something different, right? There was always a joke that said that there's no bathrooms in Betrayal, and it's like, we're in a haunted house, why is there no bathrooms? So now in the most recent edition, but also in Widow's Walk, you can reveal bathrooms now. Sorry, that's a random little bit of things. Just because I couldn't stop thinking about it, Google says aerial or a gondola lift. Anyway, moving on. Hey, thank you. Hey, I appreciate the fact you went to Google and looked it up. I would not have known either. I would have been just like going, and then just shouted it out later. Gondola lift sounds what it is. So thank you for looking that up, Blue Scat. I appreciate it. So most of the time we are focusing on the more engaging events, such as using scenes, framed situations where something interesting is happening, and skipping uneventful parts of the story. There are 3 main types of scenes: transitional scenes, excuse me, when you need to move from one on to the next part of the story, travel is often involved. If there are any actions in a scene, sum them up and make dice rolls to see how well it goes. Do a little bit of bookkeeping and then move on. A special type of transitional scene is the planning scene. In a planning scene, players pore over the clues, decide what to do next, and get equipment. The director is rarely involved in the planning scene. Yeah, if the players are planning something, I just sit back and have a cup of tea and eat some popcorn and then answer stuff as it comes up. I just like to listen at that point. Except when players ask if they can get stuff they need. When all participants are in consensus that they are done, it's often followed by travel to the location. You know what I'm getting here? I would love it if we did have, and I'm sure they do, I think they did on the store have maps of like the campaign settings or locations you could go to. So you could have like a proper, like, you know, the Indiana Jones like travel via map thing going on. Or describe it like that and sort of like a montage thing. That'd be quite cool. Ooh. All right, moving on. The second type of scene we can have is detailed scenes. Detailed scenes are used when we need a better overview of the location, and tighter interaction is not that easy to sum up. When the cast are looking to infiltrate the Octopus base, looking for evidence in Dr. Nefero, possibly, lab, or mingling at the Monte Carlo casino, then you would use a detailed scene. Detailed scenes are not summed up. Instead, you deal with what is happening, action for action, line for line. And then finally, we have action scenes. This is a special type of detailed scenes when the action happens. When not only do you need to resolve actions, but you also need to determine their order and immediate consequences. All fight scenes are action scenes, but not all action scenes are fight scenes. So presumably that would be like maybe social encounter scenes where you might have to be, I don't know, speaking at some sort of debate or dinner perhaps, or trying to convince someone in court, if you're that, I guess. When setting the scene, you determine the following things. Where are you when something happens? Are you on the road, in a hotel bar, in a lost temple in the Cambodian jungle? What does the place look like? What happens? Are the villains chasing the characters? Is it a party or a fist fight? And of course, who is involved, not counting the characters. In a transitional scene, you don't really have to spend too much time on describing the scene. Explain that the characters are in a crowded airport near Paris might be enough. When you switch to a detail scene or action scene, there is a need for more specific information, but you don't have to outline them all at once. Yeah, the usual 5 senses. Get it right there. I love it if every transitional scene was in a crowded airport, though. Or you're about to get on a plane, or you know what it would be? It would be a proper like train carriage. You're going on a long journey all the way around Europe. That'd be really cool. Alright, task checks. So these are those percentile rolls. It's compared against a modifier and a skill value to determine whether a task succeeds or not. So, a standard task check compares the percentile roll to a skill value only. If the value is lower than or equal to the skill value, the task succeeds. Alright, Call of Cthulhu. Right, okay, cool. If the roll is higher than the skill value, the task fails. Modifiers. Modifiers measure the circumstances beyond your personal aptitude that affects the chances of success. Equipment may make a task easier, bad weather and conditions may make it harder. These kinds of modifiers, these are the typical kinds of modifiers. Up modifiers make the task easier, and down modifiers make them harder. Both are measured in pips. Ooh. If a check has a modifier, you must first compare it to the ones of the percentile roll. You must compare ones. Oh, right, this is where it's going into deeper now, I see. So if the check has a modifier, you first compare the ones or the units of the percentile roll to the modifier. This takes precedence over the comparison to the skill level. To the skill value, sorry. Okay, this could get hard. 1 second. Up modifiers. When a task is easier than normal, you apply an up modifier as written as plus X pips. Check if the ones of the percentile roll is between 1 and X. If so, the task succeeds regardless of the rest of the outcome. If the ones is not between 1 and X, check if the outcome is equal to or lower than the skill value. Okay, so I see. So you check the units first before checking this, checking the units first against this modifier, and then you go to that skill value check that you do in Call of Cthulhu. So here's an example which will probably help us quite a bit. Electra and Eloise, which are fantastic names by the way, are trying to stop a secret agent from reaching Vienna. Yes, that's how you say it. Their primary goal is to get to the border before the secret agent, so that they can have the border guards close it. But there's something wrong with Electra's Lancia. I assume that's the car? Lancia, yeah. And Eloise is trying to fix it. Luckily, she has a mechanic's toolbox which gives her +2 pips modifier when preparing something. Eloise has an engineering skill of 45%, but she rolls an 81. So the task... Oh, so the task check is a success, even though 81 is obviously higher than 45 because of the ones she rolled is within the 1 to 2, so the +2... Oh, wow, just about, though. Ooh. I mean, she clearly breaks something before she fixes the engine. She identifies the problem as loose tube clamps at the cooler, fixes them, and fills the cooler up with water. That's very cool. I really like that thing. You just have to get it into your brain. And certainly, as the director of operations, you have to be like, okay, this is how many pips you've got. What's the units first? And then down modifier, so it's the same thing but in reverse. When a task is harder than normal, you apply the down modifier written as -X pips. Check the ones of the dice of the percentile roll between 1 and X. If so, the task fails, regardless of the rest of the outcome. If the ones is not between 1 and X, check it if the value is equal to or lower than the skill value is normal. Okay, cool. And here's a difficulty level table, always good to have. This seems like a lot. I don't think it is. I think it's trying to make itself a little bit different. I think once you get into the habit of it, I think it should be okay. But I think I would have to have, you know what, I bet they probably have a DM screen or a director of operations which has it in like massive writing. But the initial skill is okay. I guess maybe what it's trying to do is trying to get away from that whole like, just a success, hard success, extreme success, you know, that they do in Call of Cthulhu in those sort of levels. Here it's a little bit different. So I don't hate it. I think it's different, but you need that example. A little bit, but again, I don't know. I've not played it. You know, and now I'm about to go onto another page and it says stacking modifiers, and instantly I'm like, oh no. So you can stack modifiers as long as they are from different categories. 4 categories are difficulty, circumstances, gear, kits, and abilities. You can only use 1 modifier from each category. Up and down cancel each other out from pip to pip. That makes sense. Note that no matter how many pips the modifier is, 0 on the ones is not affected. What? 0 on the ones is not affected? I guess because it has to be between 1 and X, right? That's what it said before. Yeah, I guess so. All right, so that would be quite interesting. You have to remember that the 0 doesn't affect it per se. So if you succeed, the check succeeds, and you get the desired result. If you fail, in most cases, a failed task check means the task has failed. You don't get to try again. Not even your friends get to try. You need to significantly change the circumstances in order to roll again. For instance, it must be another scene, or you may need to get some proper equipment, or just additional assistance. Just failing is boring and stops the action. Fail forward is the philosophy that drives the action forward by having something else happen besides just having the desired outcome not happening. If not in a fight scene, the director could consider one of the following things happening. Ooh. Separating the characters. They attract unwanted attention. Change the scene or zone. Take their stuff. Take their stuff. Bluecast on YouTube says, yes, I guess since there are skill rolls that seem to be universal, so there's not different stuff you need to remember for combat or normal skill checks, I guess. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we'll find out when it gets to combat, right? And those action scenes, I know that because that's the thing I always fall down on is action scenes or combat scenes because the rules might check. I could also see, just looking in the corner there was opposed checks and something called flip checks. So who knows what that is? But I think it's okay. But again, it's already a quick start. And you're like, okay, it's a little bit more complicated than you do. I mean, what they could do would be just having those pip things as an optional rule. You know, so that it's a bit like, you know, in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where they're like, here's just the main mechanic. Here's all this other stuff, completely optional. Just build it as you wish to. And those people who really want those crunchy games are like, ah, yes, brilliant. And someone like me goes, oh, God, no. But yeah, if you've played Call of Cthulhu, I think it's just one step beyond that. So I would assume. I'm sure we're about to find out, and I'm going to be completely wrong. Experience ticks. Whenever you use a skill in a meaningful way for the first time during a session, you get an experience skill. So I feel like this is going to be similar to Call of Cthulhu leveling up as well. I appreciate I'm talking about Call of Cthulhu, and I've not actually reviewed it yet as another stream. Maybe I should sort that out at some point. You can only tick once per skill, so it's basically the first time you use it in a session. Interestingly, though, it says whenever you use a skill in a meaningful way, not that you succeed. Because in Call of Cthulhu, it is that you succeed at the skill. So, interesting. You do not need to have an actual task check for the skill. You just need to use the skill in a way that progresses the plot. What does that mean? I guess if you don't roll for it, you can still tick it. I don't know. I like that little bit of chance, to be honest with you. You should not abuse the system and use the skill just to get the tick. That doesn't progress the plot, and the director may and should veto the experience tick if you do. Here are some situations that it may be vetoed. Someone has already made the task check and failed. There's no risk, danger, or challenge involved. The action is not important to the story. After each session, during the debriefing phase, use the experience ticks to improve the skills. Alright, all fine. In Cult, there isn't a difference between combat and normal situations, but that is I assume it's, I was going to say, powered by the apocalypse, right? PPTA, I was like, what system is that? Yeah. You know, I haven't played Cult. It is on my list of things to review at some point, stuff like that. I've heard, I mean, you look at the images and you go, it's a certain type of game. I've seen people play it, like streamers and stuff, and it seems really, really cool. I don't know if it's one for me necessarily, but also I don't know if it's one I should, well, not should, but one I would put on the podcast per se. Might just be a stream stuff, but I am very curious about it. And also powered by the apocalypse games are like, great anyway. Opposed checks. Opposed checks happen when you pit your capabilities against those of another person. Yeah. So both participants make a task check. If both fail, the opposed checks results in a stalemate. Neither side wins or loses. If one succeeds whilst the other fails, then the successful one wins. If both succeeds, the person with the highest roll wins the opposed skill check. What does that mean, though? Because, like, what if they're both, like, one's at 50, one's at 70, and you got 25 with the 50, your skill check was 50, but then you got 62 with the 70. Does that mean the 62 person wins? I guess because it's a small gap, even though lower is better. Both participants succeed and the rolls are tied, unlikely. The opposed check, results in a stalemate. Neither side wins or loses. Oh, so you don't even get to roll again in the unlikely scenario that they're tied. Interesting. I would definitely want to check that, though, the highest roll wins. Because, again, in Call of Cthulhu, and I think with in Warhammer as well, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, it is the success levels. How many much more success levels are you there? And, like, the whole, in Call of Cthulhu, it's like, oh, I got an extreme success, and I only got this, etc. When attacking and defending, the last point is important. The attacker only inflicts damage if the attacker wins the opposed check. Yes. If both the attacker and defender succeeds, but there is a tie, the defender wins on a technicality. Right, yes, that makes sense. For action scenes and combat, absolutely. Let's go on to flipping checks. Flipping checks! Under certain circumstances, you can flip a task check. This can save your bacon and turn a failed task check into a success. You can flip a check task if you spend 2 story points, or if you have an ability that allows you to flip a task check. Flipping checks with the abilities is either conditional, can be done a limited number of times per session, or will cost you 1 story point. Oh, I see. So if you're using ability, it could be a story point, right? But it's limited to a small set of skills or situations. So when you flip a task check, tell the director how you want to flip the check. Is it by spending the story points, what ability you're using, and so on. Oh, switch the places of the 1s and 10s. So a roll of 73 is now 37, and a roll of 29 counts as a 92, and so on. But the roll of 100 is still 100. Yeah, critical fail on that one. Okay, that I like. That's the difference between. Again, I know I keep talking about Call of Cthulhu, but Call of Cthulhu is always about pushing the roll that you roll again to see if you can get under or over or whatever. This I love the switching. Because that feels very, it feels like just saving your bacon. It feels very lucky, right? You're like, oh, I got a 72. I'm gonna spend 2 story points, or I'm gonna use this ability, and I'm gonna switch them. Oh, because that feels like, you know, if you're running for the train, or if you're falling out of the air gondola, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna switch my flips, or I grab onto so and so's hand. Oh yeah, love that. Karma. If the 10s and 1s of a percentile roll in a task check are equal, i.e. you roll 11, 22, 33 and so on, all the way up to 99, and including double zeros, which is 100, karma happens. When you get a karma result, you always get a story point. Love that. Hey, anything for doubles, I think that's really cool. On top of that, you get good karma if the task check was successful, and you get bad karma if the task check fails. Cool. Good karma means something good happens. It's not a critical success per se, but it's often something good and unrelated. Some situations have specific rules for good karma. Otherwise, you or the director can make up something good and unrelated. You always have these fallback suggestions. Let's have a look at these. You have a windfall. The next check in the same scene, you'll have 2 pips to. Oh, cool. Your opponent has bad luck. Your opponent's next check in the same scene is a -2 pips. Bad karma means something bad happens. As with good karma, it's not a fumble. Some situations have specific rules for bad karma. Otherwise, you and the director can make something up that is bad and unrelated. Here are some fallback suggestions if you can't think of anything. Enemy reinforcements arrive. God damn it! And then your next check is at -2 pips. Very cool. Blue Scat says, another game I've always wanted to check out is The Warren, which has been described as Watership Down, the RPG with rabbits. That's a World of Darkness engine, I think. Yes, it is. I actually, again, it's on the list. I have actually read through The Warren, not on stream or anything like that. It's very good. They've got some really good scenarios in there. And yeah, it is exactly what you said. It is like Watership Down, but for players, and the different sort of rabbit characters you can play are really fun. There's, I think, I don't want to tell a lie at this point, but I think one of the scenarios is set in like a nuclear holocaust, and the rabbits don't really understand what's going on, which sounds incredible. That sounds like a really cool thing. Again, with your lines and veils and boundaries and stuff, just talking about that would be just really interesting. Anyway, moving on. Challenges. Challenges are used in situations that require cooperation, take time, or involve multiple skills, between 3 to 5 skills. So, okay, yeah. They use simple task checks. A challenge will have an outcome depending on how many of the task checks were successful. Yeah, so there's that sort of progressing thing. If you're like, I don't know, baking a cake, like get ingredients, put the ingredients together, bake. Those are the 3 checks, and take it to kitchen. Take it to friend's kitchen. I don't know why I picked cake as an example. When written, challenges specify what the skills are to use and why. A list of modifiers optional. I see. Yeah, and a list of outcomes and what they mean. There are more modifiers than skills. Then they can stack at the director's discretion. So let's have a look here. Ooh. Oh, I see what they've done here. So, yeah, so this is an example how many tasks you have, how many successful ones you get. 0 is abysmal. It's not a good outcome. and then it goes up like that. Okay, that's quite a nice handy one to have. Again, I assume this would be on any GM screen. Oh, and there's a thing here for creating challenges. Let's have a quick read through that. Start by listing skills involved in the challenge. Decide on a good outcome based on a desired result. Decide what happens if you don't get the desired result. Often it's just that you don't get it. That's the bad outcome. Decide what the worst thing that can happen is, and that's your abysmal outcome. Add something even better for your great outcome, and some setback for the limited one. Okay, that's quite good. So you've got the nice range of stuff for each little challenge and stuff. That's quite cool. Yeah, I actually don't really work on that sort of principle when I'm running games. If they fail, I go, oh god. Oh, you know when you roll like a mixed result and they go, oh, you got to give me a complication, and I go, oh, I don't know. What kind of complication do you want? I don't know. I'm busy being everyone else. I don't have time to make a complication in your life. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic there. That's quite good if that's what you're making out. It's like have the options ready. Be prepared, as someone might say. Wow. Yeah, exactly. I assume that's about the Warren comment. So yeah. Oh yeah, and here's the outcomes again. Great, good, limited, bad, and abysmal. Yep. So we don't need to go over those again. Bad outcome, you do get a consolation prize. Yeah, I guess, again, it's always moving this plot forward, right? When running a challenge, tell the players what skills are involved. Have the players distribute the task checks as evenly as possible amongst the characters in the scene. Every character in the scene should have at least one task check. Yep. Then they make the task checks, keeping track of how many succeed and which ones, because that could be good flavour, I guess. And depending on how many checks there are in total for the challenge and how many of them succeed, you get an outcome. Opposed challenges. These work like ordinary challenges, but the task checks, try saying that all the time, are opposite. This side instigating the challenge decides on the desired result and becomes a good outcome. The other side decides on their desired outcome, which is that. Okay, so you could collaborate, I guess, with your players on that front then. Like, what do you want out of this? Cool. I say that's not going to happen, as the Octopus organisation don't want that. Great outcome, abysmal outcome, and unlimited is sort of a draw. Cool. Here we go. Oh, deep breath, everyone. We're into fights and combat. Woohoo! In Troubleshooters, there will be danger and challenges, fisticuffs and shootouts, even massive explosions. Despite that, the Troubleshooters isn't deadly or gritty. In the game, your character may be knocked unconscious or disappear from a scene or be taken prisoner, a staple of the genre. But your character will not die unless that's what you want. If that's what you want, or you do something really stupid. That's very true. It's all the same, and that's kind of like the same in most Tintin books. Is that he's always taken prisoner. He's always in some box. Snowy's always getting him out of there. We still want the fights to be fair. After all, if you are to capture or even kill characters, you better do it by the book, even if you're the director. But just fighting is boring. When you plan a fight, give it context and meaning. Make sure there's a reason for the conflict that gets the players invested in the scene. Alright, consequences of fights. Although fights and troubleshooters do not lead to the deaths of characters, unless a player wants that to happen, there's still consequences. In the short term, it attracts attention. Gunshots will result in armed police showing up at the location very fast. Even fisticuffs in public may make people call the police. I don't know about that. I guess obviously, I know this is like a fantasy sort of 1960s, Franco-Belgian comic. Have you tried calling the police today? They won't come around for anything. In the long term, wounds need care. Professionals will also call the police if the characters walk into the ER with bullet wounds. And even if you can get a shady doctor to treat your wounds, recuperation is slow. So again, I know I keep mentioning it, Call of Cthulhu has that same thing where you don't heal up like that. You don't heal straight away, you take your time. Classic. I agree, Blue Scat. I agree. Words are not my strong points today. Starting fights. When a fight starts, set up the scene zones and then determine the initiative order. Or when characters get amnesia and then when they wake up. I remember that happened more than once in Tintin. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Professor Calculus said, oh, where am I? Or anything with Captain Haddock going. He's always hungover and drinking, can't remember where he's been. So zones, I'm sure anyone that's played any role-playing games at this point will know what a zone is, but just in case, they are an area that's distinct and somewhat homogeneous. It doesn't matter, it's very much theatre of the mind. It's assumed you're constantly moving about, and that when you want to do something or when something happens to you, you happen to be in the appropriate location within the zone. Moving between the zones is an action. However, sometimes the move action requires a task check. So presumably if it's like, obviously we would call difficult terrain, but maybe like if you're trying to get through like a tight alleyway following somebody. They're not intended to use to measure distance, but to make terrain interesting and to make tactical movement easy without a grid. Absolutely. If an area is so huge, it would be silly not to have some distance involved. Plan the zones accordingly. Set up objects that restrict movement in certain zones and give the zones different properties. So again, that could be quite a cool one. Again, I don't know if they have maps or location, grids, maps of areas, but like being able to be like, here, this is one zone from you. It's a market space. You can tell it's going to slow you down quite a bit, or you can try dashing through these things and risk losing that person, and actually having that. Again, sounds like setting it all up in advance. Sounds like the way to go for it. Initiative. Initiative roll is a task check for alertness, or the basic skill for director characters that do not have alertness. Basic skill. I guess when you make like the NPCs or non-playable characters, maybe it's just like they're not alert. They're just mooks. They just get on with stuff, right? Ooh. On a bad karma, your initiative is 0, so presumably you go last. If the check fails, your initiative is the ones of the roll. Oh, okay, that's quite cool. If the check succeeds, your initiative is the 10s plus the ones of the roll. And on good karma, you add 10 to your initiative. Okay, I quite like that. As it makes rolling kind of interesting. Like you never know really. You're not going to have like a certain set per se. It's not going to be like 1 to 25. It could be. Well, I guess I don't know. If you roll badly, if you roll 99, it's just 9, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I see what it is. It's definitely going down, but obviously the higher you get is because you've succeeded a check and then you've added your 10s and units together. Right, I understand now. Many director characters have preset initiative numbers, especially underlings and mooks. The director then doesn't have to roll for initiative. Yep, good for me. In descending order, highest to lowest, each character then takes 1 turn. They can only take 1 turn during a round, even if their initiative drops during the turn. Ooh, I wonder what affects that then. On a tie, player characters take their turn first. Tied player characters can act in any order the players agree on. Tied director characters act in the order that director deems fit. Initiative can drop during the scene from activating abilities or from the PAM? What? Aimed shot. Oh, from the PAM! Aim shot option. Oh, you must be when you've been shot. Okay. Initiative can never drop below 0. If something causes your initiative to drop below 0, it becomes 0 instead. Yeah. If the ability or option requires you to lower initiative and you have initiative 0, you cannot activate that ability or option. Oh, I see. Yes, I understand. If you've got like a special attack and it goes, in order to use it, you to spend like resources to do it, you've got to lower your initiative, but you're already at 0. You can't activate that ability. That makes sense. If newer characters arrive to the fight and get involved, have them roll initiative at the start of the turn after they arrived. Cool. On your turn, the basic unit of time and effort is a round. Yep, it's not a fixed amount of time, but it's the time it takes for everyone in the scene to do their thing. In a round, everyone gets to take 1 turn in descending order. The turn consists of 3 phases: start, actions, end. These phases are mostly for clarity. Some effects from conditions and tags apply at the start of a turn or at the end of a turn, but if you don't have any such effects, you just take your actions and hand things over to the next character in initiative. Yeah, totally makes sense. Start of the turn. There may be things happening. For example, some conditions are dropped at the start of your turn, so this does not count as an action. On your turn, you can take 3 actions, and you can do them in any order you like. So 1 move action, 1 free action, 1 main action. Sometimes you may get a 4th action, a bonus action. This happens directly after the main action. Oh, okay, so that you always have to do your main action first. Some actions happen outside your turn, so like delayed actions. If you delay your main action, it may be triggered outside your turn. So yeah, we've talked about delaying before in different RPGs. Defense. If you are attacked, you may in some way, in cases, defend yourself. And then counterattacks. Some director characters may make counterattacks if attacked. The counterattack happens immediately after they're attacked, but before any other action, including bonus actions. Okay, that would be good to know, because otherwise, I don't know about folks in the chat at all. Sometimes when there's like a held action or counter action, I totally forget to finish that person's action. When it's like, okay, cool, whose turn is it, you know? So then I would definitely have to have like a proper pad out of who goes when. But it has to be a changeable one. I've got to be honest, I've yet to find like a good system to run combat in any RPG. To get used to it. And it's not about like the zones, like it's not about people using stuff. It's just stuff like this when it's like the initiative may change, and then it does, and then you're adding new people in. I just wish there was some easy way of doing it. I'm sure there is, and I've just not looked. I'm also not the biggest fan of combat, so it I don't help myself, right? I do not help myself. Move actions. There's only one move action, namely move. It has its own category, so that you do not have to choose it between moving and doing stuff. So you may move to an available adjacent zone. Some zones may be restricted and require a task checked to move into or out of. If it fails, the move action is forfeited. Oh, good to know. And then free actions. These are short actions that happen concurrently with another action, such as saying something, picking up something, dropping something, readying a weapon, change weapons, break cover, fall prone. Always falling prone. That is a free action. Oh, doesn't have kindness on here, by the way. Or crying. That's what I'd be doing. Main actions. Or apologising is the other one, isn't it? Saying sorry is a free action. I think I've seen that on a t-shirt. Main actions. Here's where you achieve something. So sprinting, taking extra movement. Yes, we know that from D&D. Attacking someone. Catch your breath. Take a moment to catch your breath and make a 2DP recovery roll. That's cool. Can you just do that as many times as you want? Because I like that. Reload. Oh, shoot. If reloading is a main action. Take cover. Survey. Delaying your main action. All these ones. Bonus actions. You may take one bonus action directly after your main action if there is a condition or ability that allows for one. If you can only take one bonus action per round, you must do it after the main action, but before you take your next action. If you attack a character with the counterattack tag, the counterattack happens directly. Yeah, we've talked about this before. But don't forget the bonus action after you counter it. So yeah, you've got to be like on it. I think it's that sort of thing where you have to tell your players, right, I've done this. You've done this. I'm going to counterattack. Is there anything else you want to do after that? I have to break immersion for that because it's the only way I get it across. And then eventually I'll get into it and actually be a bit more immersive and not be like, have you done your bonus action? Have you done it? At the end of the turn, just like the start of turn, there may be things happening. Again, dropping conditions may be one example. And again, these do not count as actions. As soon as you're done, say you're done. Next character in the initiative order starts a turn, and once your turn ends, you are normally not allowed to backtrack and change what you did. Agreed. You'd be surprised how often that happens, though. I've got to go. I'll catch the rest on the VOD. I saw your stream about the Dragon Beans. Subbed. Oh, thank you, Blue Scat. Well, have a great day. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. I appreciate it. Attacks and defense. An attack check is a task check against a combat skill. This may be a simple task check for an appropriate combat skill, and if the target takes a defense action or an opposed check of the attacker's combat skill against the target. Okay, I've got this. Yes, it's a simple check, appropriate skill. Or if you've got defense, yeah. If the attack skill wins or just succeeds, but it's not proposed, then you hit your target and inflict damage. Yeah. Again, similar vibes to Call of Cthulhu. Basic attack. An attack action rarely consists of one shot or one swing. You hit the target several times, trying to get through its defenses, or fire a salvo or a burst of shots in rapid succession. The exception is when a ranged weapon also allows for one shot. For instance, if it's a musket, a crossbow, or javelin, which are really exceptions in a modern era, or carefully aimed range shots. There are multiple swings and shots are abstracted into the basic attacks. They use this procedure. Select a valid target, make an attack check, may be opposed by a defense check. On a successful attack, roll damage. Handle the reload. Ooh. Handle the reload, single shot, or thrown tags. Okay, so that's what happens after you've made your successful attack, right? Reload is X. X is the range, often between 9 to 0, but sometimes it's just 0 or 8 to 9. If the wands of the attack check is within the listed range, the weapon needs to be reloaded if you want to use it again. If you had bad karma and the weapon is empty, then the weapon is jammed and needs to be fixed in a later scene. Single shot still needs to be reloaded and thrown. You're no longer in possession of your weapon. Use a free action to swap to another weapon before the next attack or attack unarmed. Okay, so this pips, this wand stuff, the unit stuff is actually very important. Something you have to remember for the reload stuff. Again, I like it. I would make it optional, just because it's a lot to remember when you're literally starting out. I can already see the Pam aim shot just there. That's quite fun. All right. Valid targets. In melee, you can only attack targets in the same zone, or unless you or the target zone specifies something else. In ranged combat, you can attack targets in your own zone or any zone that does not have a blocked line of sight and is in range. Just look at the zone layout and decide whether the line of sight is cleared, hindered, or blocked. So again, having that, if you're having a shootout in sort of the market square and there's stalls and everything, that could possibly be hindered, because you see here, you can see parts of the target zone from the attacker's zone, and there may be a doorway. He's going to use a doorway example, okay. That allows you to see some of the zone. Obstacles in between. One zone in between that has the restricted tag, and so on. The line of sight if the line of sight is hindered, attack checks are at -2 pips per zone that hinders that line of sight. Ooh, so that could be like, if you had 2 of those zones that are hindered, that would be -4, etc. And then blocked, you can't see the target zone from the attacker's zone in any way. I will say this language is a little bit clunky for my liking. I will say that this is also in, you can get the Troubleshooters in French as well, so maybe it's a little bit clearer in a different language. That might have been written in the actual home language, or the mother tongue is the word I was looking for. Range. To have the short range X tag, this means it can only be attacked certain zones away. Attack options. Some options will be available to you. If you don't want, use the basic attack. Ooh, Wump. Melee, throw, or grapple. Very cool. Oh, so this is almost like giving moves. We were talking about this yesterday with Rapscallion. Wump, you try to grapple or throw someone, make an attack check. If successful, choose 2 of the following. So you inflict some more damage. The target is restrained. Oh, the target's prone. Absolutely prone them. No need to restrain, just prone them. Pam! Aim shots. This requires initiative 1+, so you have to have a solid initiative. You have to be above 0. Using the aim shot option, you fire 1 carefully aimed shot and make 1 carefully aimed attack with a thrown weapon. You don't have to worry about the reload tag, but the single shot and throw work as usual. It uses this procedure. Make an attack check at +2 pips. If you hit and you inflict a certain amount of damage, or a bit more damage, sorry, but then your initiative drops by 2. Ooh, excellent. Very cool. So even on initiative 1, you could still do it, and then you just get to initiative 0, but you just can't use the aim shot again. I like that. That's a really fine resource, because sometimes you get players who always are like, bonus action, I will carefully aim the shot. You're like, okay, yeah, it's because it's safe. You get more dice for your buck on that one. Rat-tat-tat. Range attack. Empty your weapon. Requires the reload tag. Using a semi-automatic or automatic firearm, you can also pour it pour it on the enemy until the weapon is empty. When emptying your weapons, use this procedure. Choose one of the following. Make attack checks against all the targets in one zone. So yeah, it's almost like a spread of fire, isn't it? Make an attack check against one target and inflict extra damage on that target. And wait, how many do you pick? Oh, use the following procedure. So choose one of the following. So choose either one of those, and then your weapon is automatically empty, and you need to reload it. You cannot use this option if your weapon has a single shot tap. Yeah, so it's either or those two. No, where's it? Single shot. Oh, it's either or Pam or rat-a-tat-tat. Rat-a-tat-tat. Yeah, that's how you say it. Defense. A defense check is a task check for the melee skill or defense score for the director's characters. If a director's character doesn't have a defense score, they don't get to make a defense check. Yeah, they're not wearing armor. Sucks. Sucks for you. Just checking what it says there. Oh, if you don't make a defense check, you will still defend yourself, but the defense part is the uncertainty of the attack. So, lack of defense for the director characters. The defense score characters is usually a bit lower than the attack value and a bit higher than the basic skill. The reason for that is that with a high defense score, combat tends to drag out a bit and become boring. Very true. Some director characters, such as underlings and mooks generally, don't have a defense score at all. This is by intent. Their defense is the character's chance to miss. Static defense, in other words. That and the mook's low vitality usually means they drop like flies. So yeah, it feels a bit more exciting that the players are moving forward a little bit, and then as soon as they hit the big boss, they're like, "Oh no, we were doing so well, and turns out we're not as good as we think we are." Absolutely. Yeah, it does look like I'm shouting quite a bit. So, make a check. If the director character has a defense score, the situation allows for a defense check, they will make one when they are the target of the attack. Yep. If a cast character is attacked, the situation allows for the defense check, they may make one when they are a target. Yeah. So they actually have a chance to defend. I get it. I understand words. Cast characters can also use agility against ranged attacks if they're in cover. The defense check is opposed by the attack check. So attackers are not... Sorry, words there. My brain just did a flip. I did a flip check then. The defense check is opposed by the attack check. Yes, this is the opposed phase. The attacker not only has to roll lower than or equal to their combat skill, but also higher than the defender's defense check. You can make a defense check in the following situations. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit so we can see this table. Defense score. Okay. So. Right. I don't know about you, but I have absolutely no idea. So defense check, I guess it's based on these following skills. So either melee, if you're the target of melee attack, or if you're in the same range, in the same zone as someone, and then agility if you're the target of a ranged attack from a different zone and you're in cover. Whereas the director character stuff is just their defense score, or if they don't have a defense score, they just don't do anything. Did you hit? Question, son. Are you winning, son? You hit the target if the attack check is successful and the target doesn't make a defense check. Yep. If the attack check succeeds and wins over the defense check. If it's tied, then the attack fails to hit. Yes, absolutely. The defender gets off on a technicality if it's tied. In combat, karma has specific effects. Oh, see, I told you the police are finally coming. I don't know if you can hear it over the music, but I can hear sirens now. Eventually they get here. The attack check has good karma, so that underlings and mooks are out cold. You may discard the damage roll even after it's exploded and make a new damage roll. You have to keep the new result. Attack check has bad karma. Something bad happens that complicates things for the character. The next check is at -2 pips. The defense check has good karma. Make 1 DP recovery roll after the damage has been resolved, so a quick heal. And the defense check has bad karma. You're knocked down by the attack and are prone. Oh no! Don't forget though that a karma result on a task check gives you 1 story point. So yes, so you always get something, even if something really good happens to you or really bad happens to you. So it's a way to move the story forward. Okie dokie. Damage, vitality, and wounds. If the attacker hits, the attacker rolls damage. Damage rolls explode. For each 6 you get to roll another dice. If any of those are 6, roll another die, and so on until you have no more 6s to roll. Yep. For each 4 to 6, you end up with the defender loses a point of vitality. So yeah, for each sort of success, and its successes are on 4, 5, and 6, they lose 1 point of vitality. Vitality, not fatality. If the defender has some kind of body armor or other form of light protection, the defender makes a soaked roll. So again, that defense. Well, no, it's not a defense roll, is it? It's just they're just wearing armor. This just happens. So for each 4, 5, and 6 in the soak roll, it reduces that vitality loss by 1. Yep, I've done this before. Push. So here's a pro tip. They say push any 4, 5, and 6 dice to the side. That way, you don't have to worry if they may tumble while rolling more dice. If there is a soak roll, you can then remove that number of dice from the pile and count the rest. Oh, that's quite clever, yeah. If the vitality loss is 0 or less, excuse me, nothing happens. If at least one has at least, the vitality loss is at least 1, reduce the target's current vitality by that much. If it ever reaches 0, that player is out cold. Players, characters, and some director characters can take wounded or mortal peril conditions instead of vitality loss. But unimportant characters cannot. So mooks and underlings are just out cold when their vitality runs out. Lieutenant director characters can take the wounded condition. Boss director characters can take the mortal peril condition. They don't have to. Just like characters, they may be taken prisoner or wait for an opportunity to try and escape. Even if jailed, they are often sprung between adventures to appear in the next. Absolutely. And there's a little table saying what comes into it. Yeah. So what are these conditions then? Wounded. They can take it instead of vitality loss. They don't have to, but if they choose to, if they want to avoid ending up out cold. It has consequences for later though that stick around for some time. After the fight, you remain wounded. When the fight scene is over, all your task checks are a -2 pips until the wound heals. I guess these pip checks, they are kind of integral to the system, aren't they? So they can't just be a excuse me. It can't just be a what's the word? My brain is completely gone. It can't just be an optional rule. There you go. That's what I was looking for. You can only have 1 wounded condition at a time. If you're already wounded, you can't take the wounded again. Note that even if someone shoots you with a gun and inflicts lots of vitality loss, there's no harm, wounds, or blood unless you take the wounded condition. This is important. Ooh, okay, so you might be hurt, perhaps, or I guess vitality maybe be like almost like stress, right? It's be like, oh god, it's a really stressful situation, and maybe you just like give up. Yeah, because I guess the idea is that you're not focusing on the death elements in this game. The other condition is mortal peril. They can take it instead of vitality loss. Again, it's not mandatory, but they choose to do it if they want to end up out cold and want to risk everything. Avoid ending up out cold and risk everything. If you take the mortal peril condition, you can flip attack checks at will for the remainder of the scene. But it comes at a cost. If you're in mortal peril and you run out of vitality, you're not out cold, you're dead. Ooh. Okay, interesting. Dying. In Troubleshooters, by default, cast characters don't die. More often than not, you're out cold. Even director characters rarely die, if at all. There are 3 exceptions. Abuse rule or goodwill. If you're abusing the rules or the director's goodwill or do silly things, you may actually die. Okay, I wouldn't... You need to talk with your players if they're doing that, to be honest with you. I don't think you should have that as a... Like, oh, well, you're going to die if there's 3 exceptions. If you abuse the rules, I'm just going to kill your character. That ends up with a bit of a hard experience between you and the players. Sacrifice. The director may set the death as an option in a situation where the ultimate choice is up to you. You must save the Baroness Zonda and have her rethink her evil ways by putting yourself in between her and the sword blade, but you will die. Okay. The director should not use this option lightly, saving it for when it creates great drama. If you then choose that option, your character is dead. You may describe your untimely end if you want, and you may and the director agrees. Yeah. So you may describe your untimely end if you want, and if the director agrees. And then mortal peril is what we just described about. Mortal peril condition, and you run out of vitality, your character dies. If you may get to say a few last words to your friends, but you are a goner. Very cool. Troubleshooters is not a game where you kill indiscriminately. Even unimportant director characters are rarely killed. Instead, the enemies are knocked out cold, thrown out of the scene, disarmed, and forced to surrender when they are out cold. Bosses can die, but only when it's dramatically appropriate. This uses the same rules for characters, so they can die from taking mortal peril condition. Most of the time, they escape from before that or are taken prisoner. Resolving the adventure without unnecessary bloodshed and instead taking villains prisoner is rewarded with three improvement ticks. Oh, that's quite cool. That's like almost like what's the word? A pacifist run. You do not kill director characters who give up. If you are tired of the arch enemy always escaping from jail and appear in next adventure, talk to the director instead and ask for the arch enemy to put away for good and use a new threat instead. But do not kill the villain. That's just not the way things work in these kinds of stories. If the players still want to kill director characters in cold blood, consider not giving them any free improvement ticks at all for this session. Also, remove all story points from the character that kills in cold blood, plus half of those from the characters who could have stopped the act but didn't. Gosh, this you shouldn't have to write this sort of stuff down, right? Like, if you've read Tintin or read any of the Franco sort of Belgian comic stuff, from this sort of era, you shouldn't have to be having to write this down. But I guess maybe you have to. God, that's so sad though. The fact that you have a possible suggestion for rules, I wouldn't feel comfortable like this as a DM, right? With these characters, like. I would just stop the game, to be honest with you, and be like, I'm not giving you mechanics, because there's no point, because they could easily just go, all right, cool, we're just going to keep on going then. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Healing. As soon as the fight scene is over, two things happen. If you have the condition Mortal Peril, drop that condition now. Restore your vitality to the max vitality. Oh, so that just happens. I guess it just makes it simpler for shows. It's simpler for scenes. You're not having to do long rests. Out cold, if you and I guess the whole point is this vitality stuff. Unless you're taking the wounded condition, it is supposed to be like you're under duress, you're under pressure. So that's probably what it's happening there. And then as soon as you're out of that situation, like, oh, thank God that's over. If you're out cold, you'll eventually lose the condition. As soon as the fight scene is over, another character who's not out cold can make a medicine check, and if that succeeds, you lose the condition and act immediately. If it fails, you're still out cold until the following scene following that. Basically, until somebody else can make a successful medicine check, or you have to skip a scene. If all the characters are out cold, or if some characters are out cold whilst others made a tactical retreat, those who are left behind are at the director's mercy. They will lose the condition eventually, but they may do so whilst tied to a chair or locked in a cell. All is not lost, however, as they will gain 9 story points each for being captured. Ooh, wow. Holy shoot. That's incredible. It does say getting story points on page 37. It was only 33 pages in this bloody quick start. Presumably it's talking about the core rulebook. Alright, with the wounded condition though, that remains for some time. There are 2 ways to drop it. Spend a scene healing the wound. It must contain 2 days of recuperation and either a hospital scene, awkward questions for police, or a successful credit or contacts task check and a doctor's visit with the appropriate bribe to keep quiet, or a successful task check for medicine. I definitely feel like it's like the whole, when Tintin is injured and is resting up, you definitely have Thompson and Thompson come around and like have a chat and investigate, don't they? Spend downtime in between adventures recuperating. You can ignore the effects of the wounded condition for 1 scene if somebody else packages you up with a successful medicine task check. If successful, you will still have the wounded condition, but cannot take another wounded condition. You just ignore the -2 pips modification for the 1 scene. Yeah, it's just like a get up and go, right? Most conditions are binary. If you have a condition, you either have a condition or you don't. Some conditions stack. Stacking conditions are conditions where you have more than one. Yes. These conditions eventually drop. Stacking conditions are dropped one at a time, not all at once. And oh, here's some examples. We won't go through all of them, but I can see here blinded, deaf, exhausted, flat-footed. Oh, I like that one. Frightened, restrained, intoxicated, mortal peril we've talked about. On fire. Out cold we've talked about. Overburdened. Paralyzed, prone, stunned, terrified, wounded. Other ways to get hurt. Okay, so these are sort of more environmental ways. Again, we don't need to look into this too much. Drowning. And I guess these ones are, yeah, I was going to say, so drowning is at the start of your turn in combat. It makes sense. Explosions. Oh, so a quick read. Oh, it's a timer or a fuse as well. Set a time for when the device will detonate, for example. In round 4, the bomb will go off. And it will go off first in that round. Okay, so that's almost like a lair action. Oh, and there's a table. Timed bond. Oh, I see. It says here when it will go off. That's quite cool. Fire. Falling. Poison. Poison. Morning poison. Interesting there. I've just caught the captions there. It's like, I said falling. That's what I said. Sniping or attacked from behind. Ooh. Okay, some other conditions. Story points. Oh, this is not page 37, but okay. You can have up to 12 story points. You start each session with 4 story points in your story pool, unless the director says otherwise. For instance, they may say you start with the same amount that you had at the end of the last session, or in a previous session ended in a cliffhanger. Yep. Getting story points. So one if you get a karma, i.e. that they're double, you get a double, so that's 1 story point when you get karma. Getting captured is 9 story points. That's pretty good. Just trying to read. Activate a complication. If you act 1, you get story points if there are some consequences for your character. Otherwise, this character won't get any story points for activating complications. For example, if you activate addiction and get dead drunk during downtime, or on a day where nothing happens, you won't get any story points. So yeah, it's going to affect the story in some way. The lowest amount, if you're activating a complication, is that it gives you 3 points. This makes it for either successful task check into failures, taking -2 pip modification on task checks in the scene, or taking a condition. Note that you get more story points for failing a task check because there's a complication rather than just failing, and the highest amount is 6. This is for removing yourself from a scene altogether. Entertain the table for 1 point. What? What is that? What's that mean? Oh, I think that's supposed to have its own little thing, I think. Entertain the table, 1 point. If an action entertains the table, you can reward... Oh, it's inspiration, technically. That's really cool. But don't overuse this option. Oh. Alright, so what are story points? We can get them in various ways, but we can use them to activate abilities. For example, 1 story point, you can flip a task check for certain skills. For 2, you can change a failed task check for certain skills into a success. For 4, you can activate a major special effect unique for that ability. And then we've got gadgets, which would be another one. The 5 gear kits you start with, which may not be the ones you need for the adventure. To access other kits, you may need to spend story points. Flip a check for 2 points. Get a clue from 1 to 4 points. Oh, so it's you get loads of points here. Most clues cost 1 story point. They may set a higher course. I wonder, I assume the story points are individual to you, but I guess could you pool? So like if they say I need you to spend 4 story points to get something, could it be like, oh, can I give 2 and then can Mary give another 1 and then Simon gives another 1? Add something minor. 2 points. Spend 2 story points to add something minor to the scene. Something minor could be a gun that somebody's dropped over there. That big red button on the control panel is a fire alarm. You have a hairpin or a lapel pin that you can use to pick a lock. Oh, so very much, not Robinson Crusoe. What's he called? Columbo. Oh dear. Oh, your chest attracts the attention of every villain of the opposite sex in the area, distracting them and allowing something else to do. Oh no. No, 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 no. Not having that business. We're not having... No, thank you. One of the other villains is an old lover. That's fine. Why would I want my chest to attract that? Is that... I don't know what that's supposed to be, but I don't like it. I would not be using that. The director may say no if the addition is too ridiculous like that. We're not having that. It's just, especially opposite sex. We're going to be the same sex. Why? It doesn't matter what the sex is. Yeah, gender expression and all that. Add something major. So, spend 6 story points. So, for example, an old lover will help the characters escape. A director character shows up to save the character's bacon. Damage done in an early scene causes a wall to collapse so that characters can escape. Something major often needs something reworking in the adventure, so don't be surprised if the director denies it or suggests a modification. And adding too much. Yeah, so it's about that collaboration, about like what we can do, in which case the director can hand some story points back. So if you're like, I'm going to downgrade that a little bit, it's something major, we're going to go for something minor, here's some story backs. If the player does not accept, hand all the story points back. Yeah, if they're like, no, I want it to happen, you're like, well, it's not happening. Yeah, I think that's fair. Losing story points. In some cases, you may lose story points. The most common reason is that you act against the genre's conventions, in particular killing the cold blood. But first, let's talk about what you shouldn't remove story points for. Never remove story points for acting against your plans. Yeah. To punish a player for behaving bad in real life. Why do we need to have this here? Have they really had this amount of trouble when they did playtesting? That's quite sad. You need like, I guess because it's a quick start. Maybe they're putting this in here so that you actually read it. Whereas obviously in the full book, I bet there's a whole chapter on this sort of stuff. Yeah, like this, killing unnecessarily or in cold blood, all story points plus half the other players' story. Like, that shouldn't be a mechanic. You should just stop the game, because that's no fun. Like, I just feel like that is not in keeping with like the stories you're trying to tell here. All right, experience. After each game session, there's a post-session phase which you try and raise the skill. So this is the briefing one, right? For each tick in your experience checkbox next to a skill, either make an experience check for that skill, a learning check for a language if a skill with a language is ticked, or a learning skill for an ability associated in it. Get free improvement rolls 1 to 5. For each improvement roll, either make an experience check for that skill, a learning check for language, or a learning check for an ability associated with the skill. You may not use more than 1 improvement roll for any one skill. You must use them for different skills. Get the rewards after the adventure. Recalculate vitality if necessary. Yeah. So let's go into those in a little bit more detail. So we've talked about experience ticks before. Yeah. No. Make an experience check for that skill. Make a learn language check. If it's a language, make a learn ability check if the skill is associated with that ability. Ooh. After each session, players may get a number of free improvement ticks. All present characters will get at least 1 free improvement tick. If they interacted with the director characters in a significant way, just beyond skill checks, they get 1 additional free improvement per tick. Oh, that's quite nice. The players interacted with each other in a significant way, the characters will get an additional free tick. So this is where you'd go through. This is quite common in Powered by the Apocalypse games, is you do those debrief questions going, did we achieve our goal? Which I like. It's quite a nice thing to be like, oh yeah, we did those things we set out to do, and like, oh, and you did so and so. I do like it, but it does feel a bit formulaic, going like, hey folks, so did you get to do what your thing is? Great, you get to level up. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I find it a little bit like, oh, okay, a bit tedious. Especially like these. There's quite a lot of stuff here, like stuff like the Between, which is obviously a mixture of Powered by the Apocalypse and Carved from Brindlewood Bay. You only have 3 questions. And one of those questions is always, did you resolve a threat? And then the other 2 are personal to you, which you can change as well, which I quite like. And I'm sure other Powered by the Apocalypse games have that as well. I think probably Monster Hearts will probably have that as well. Another one I should really look up. If the plot hook characters dragged the others into the adventure, the plot hook characters get 1 free improvement. Yeah. Oh god, it's going on again. Like, any character that kills the director's character in Cold Blood forfeits some or all of their free improvement ticks for this session. I definitely would bring that up front as well. Explain like, please don't kill anyone, and they're like, yep, that's fine. And then we'd use lines of. You know what? I've realised now, in this document there wasn't any talk about safety tools or lines and veils, and there usually is, like on the first page. So that's interesting. Yeah. Experience check. So this is the point. Attempt to improve a skill. You use an experience check or free improvement check in this way. Roll the percentile dice and compare the result to the skill's value. You cannot use story points to flip this check, because those are only for the story. If it's equal to or greater than the skill level, increase the skill by 1d6. Erase the old skill value. Yeah, so again, exactly like Call of Cthulhu. So obviously the idea is that the higher, the better you get with a skill, the harder it is to increase it. And then you remove the checkbox. What's this with learning a language, though? Experience check for languages can be used to learn a language. Write down the language under languages in the passport if you haven't already. Make a regular language check. Can't use story points. Oh, I see. Until you've learned a language, you must still make language tasks in order to understand the language. That makes sense, because like a lot of those adventures and stuff usually have folks who couldn't speak English or French or whatever. And so you always have to translate or decipher. So that makes sense within the story setting. So I'm not too worried about that. However, the tasks checks are at a +1 for each tick next to the language. Okay. Learning abilities, so they work in the same way that learning languages. Each ability has a cost and one or more associated skills. The main requirement of skills, you do not have to fulfill it. Yep. Sorry. I'm just going to increase and enhance. You may use one free improvement tick to make a learn ability check for one ability. You may use also one experience check for one of the associated skills in that learn ability. So in each debriefing phase, you have up to 2 chances per ability to learn it. Right. Check that you fulfill the requirements of the ability. If you do not fulfill the requirements, you cannot learn the skill. Write down the ability under the abilities in the passport if you haven't already. Put the ability in parentheses to show that you do not have that ability yet. Write the cost of the ability next to the box, but make space for ticks. Make a regular task check for the associated skill you want to use. If you have an experience tick, you have to make that check for that skill. If you have a free improvement tick, you can use it for any of the associated skills. So if it's like, I don't know, charming face, and you have like talks the talk, charming, and I don't know, fast talker, you could use any of those if you were doing a experience tick rather than a free improvement tick. Sorry, experience tick is the actual skill it's associated to. Makes sense. If it's successful, make the tick next to the ability. Yeah. So that's how you get it. Reward checks. After an adventure, you can reward the characters with additional reward checks. They should be tied to particular goals of the adventure, and they only get checks if they fulfill victory conditions. 3 to 5 victory conditions is usually about right for the adventures. Typically, but this is the thing though. It's a quick start, and it's meant to be used with scenarios. How likely are you going to? I was going to say, how likely are you, if you're running this at a con, how likely are you going to look into leveling up? But actually, if you were going to run several of these scenarios and people kept coming back for more, then you might want to use the same characters. We actually haven't got on to character creation yet, which I assume will be next. Check if vitality improves. After all the experience is handled, check whether your vitality increases. It increases if your agility or your highest combat skill value increases over certain thresholds. Vitality is 4 by default. Oof. If you go up to, if it's plus 65, it goes to 7. That's not very high. It's not very high. Oh, look at that. Oh, a cheat sheet. Fantastic. Oh. Amazing. Although I must say the blue is a little hectic on the eyes. Also, I know it's in the thing, but also this writing is tiny. If you were reading this at a con, you'd be like, I can't read any of this. I'm guessing it's going to be 1 page though. Oh no, it's 2 pages. But you got difficulties, you got the challenge. Again, you could print this out instead of the getting the GM screen. Oh yeah, there you go, another one, some more cheats. But how do I create a character? Oh, I'm guessing it's pre-gens then for this. So here we go. So Electra Ambrosia, a racing driver, a professional rally driver for the ERF oil team, one of the best in the field, good enough to compete with world-class drivers. And with a car like the Lancia, I'm amongst the best of the best. Being one of the few girls in the sports makes me a lot more popular in the media, though. Nobody knows the top drivers of the other teams by name, and nobody can point them out in the crowd. But everyone knows who Electra Ambrosia is. Yeah, I can already see that. That's how those skills levels. Those are exactly how they lay them out in Call of Cthulhu when you're putting stuff together. Oh, that's cool though. Like the languages are actually like, you know, like Greek is her native one, and then English and French. Oh, that's very cool. And the plot hook. Oh, I see. That's what they mean by plot hook. That's quite cool. So yeah, you could just print out this page, or these pages, and give them out to your characters. That's pretty cool. But I guess, you know, we'll look at the player sheet. I've got it up there, ready to go, so we can see the passport version. Oh, and some gear as well. Okay, so it's 2 pages. Okay, so that's Electra. Who else we got? Eureka. Eureka. Yeah, Eureka. Mishida. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, Eureka Mishida, inquisitive journalist. Konnichiwa. Yuki. Ano, we put a family name before we give our given name in Japan. I'm a photojournalist on a long-term assignment to France for the Japanese newspaper Senjogahara Shinbun. They say I pay a lot of attention to details, but I think I'm just Japanese. I hope you had some sensitivity readers go through this. I am a Rokudan judoka, and it is to my shame that I've been forced to use my judo skills outside the dojo when intoxicated people take liberties. Oh, I guess self-defense is okay, but I still feel bad about it. Oh, well, she shouldn't have to use judo. Oh, I love this though, ability. Press credentials. Can I quote you on that? Get that out of my face. It's got some stuff there. Paul March Chan, the cat burglar. Incredible. My professional career started in the French Marquise during the war. Those were exciting times. Stealing guns from the Germans, blowing up trains and bridges. A small miracle that I got away. But I learned to do things out of the sight of the authorities. I still put those skills to use. There are those who call me the French Robin Hood, and there's some truth in it. Some people call it stealing, smuggling, even larceny. But I never target innocent people or poor people. And I never allow ordinary people to suffer from what I do. Okay, I brushed ahead there. Lockpicker. Complication, bad reputation. I like that it comes up with those. It's a nice simple things that you get. Everyone gets at least 2 abilities. Here's a complication, here's your plot hook, and here's the gear you get with it as well. That's very cool. Harry Fitzroy, intrepid explorer. Sir Harry Fitzroy, KCB, DSO, MCTD, and the whole lot of other abbreviations at your service. You can call me Harry. I'm not that formal. I served in North Africa and Italy during the war, and I got my scars from it. I could never settle down afterwards. I have been climbing mountains, sailing yachts, writing. I was Electra's map reader for a while, until I got bored. Lovely girl, very spirited. What? It's true that I know quite a lot of the old boys and ladies, both from my service and from my education. They say I'm a bit too fond of whiskey, and that it's not true. I also like beer, gin, snaps, vodka, and advocat. God, really? And I would even accept a glass or 3 of the red. In the worst case, I could even resort to that horrible stuff they make on the other side of the pond. Wow. Okay. So yeah, 2 abilities. Ability Bushman as well. So again, very much a rah type. Stereotypical English person. Fine by me. Captain Haddock, etc. Annie Frieda Backstrom, Air Force officer. Swedish Air Force, please call me Frieda. I'm an Air Force pilot, and therefore was assigned as a liaison to represent Sweden in the ECC and NATO. I used to fly a J-35 Draken Interceptor. The assignment has its ups and downs. I miss flying, and the coffee here is a bit too weak for my taste. But sometimes on missions it can be really exciting. My superiors often complain that I get involved in matters not related to my assignment, but I know some people can make an official secrets mission in. I can see. I know some people who can make it an official secrets mission in hindsight. If you catch my drift, I will say, what kind of bloody font is that? It's a bit hard on the old eyes, I will say. Military rank, ability plot, pilot, ability pilot, ability fighter pilot. Eloise G. Rord, aspiring student. Man, what a vibe you got there. Morning, I'm Eloise. I am a student at St. Catherine's School for Young Ladies. Oh, is this Madeline? It is. Look, a Catholic boarding school outside Paris. Great. Hence the uniform, school uniform. I was put there by my mom, and so that she can date stupid men without me getting in the way. Dad disappeared some years ago, but they say I got my affinity for electronics and science from him. Look at those tropes. Woo. I'm being hit in the face with them at this point. The boarding school is really boring. They better teach anything of that. But the groundskeeper at least allows me to use the stable as a workshop. I will say though, I'm loving the Doctor Who reference there. What's it called? There was one. Is it City of Death? That's the Doctor Who one with it's not Cortana, is it? No, that's the person in Mass Effect. I can't remember. There's two assistants, and one of them's like 1 and 2, and one of them had the metal dog, whose name has also escaped me. Man, I'm such a bad Doctor Who fan. But the City of Death was a really cool serial with Tom Baker in it, where it was like the aliens had come and they were sort of impersonating people, but also using the Mona Lisa for some terrible things. It also had a police inspector in it called Duggan, and his thing was that he would jump through things. I think it was actually City of Death. I think it was a Douglas Adams serial, like written under a pseudonym. My favourite bit from it was that Duggan looked at the Doctor and was like, how do we get out of here? How do we get there? And Duggan goes, "You see that window?" And then runs off screen, and you just hear a smash as the window smashed. Anyway, sorry, went completely off track now. Oh, that is going to kill me. Who played her? It's not Cortana. Oh, it's some. I'm going to look at it. You know what? I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Doctor Who. Tom Baker assistants. It's not Sarah Jane. Romana. There we go. Oh, phew. And K9 was the other one. There you go. K9 and Romana. Romana 1 and Romana 2. I remember those now. So I think it's Romana 1 in that one. And yeah, with all that excitement, and that was the last pre-gen. So how many pre-gens we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Cool. A nice little branchy things. I think one thing I would like. I know there was like one sort of tedious link. It would be nice to have like those connections between the characters a little bit. If you was firstly starting out, like how did they all get to know each other? Like I can always see like Eloise being like interested in Electra's work. She's very famous as a rally driver, and maybe checking out on her car, making it better to go faster because of her workshop skills. But that's it. That is Troubleshooters. Let's go back to the top. But before we sort of finish, it's 7:15. That's quite good. Good timing. Let's look at the character sheet. So this is why I got very excited about it, because look how cool this character sheet is. I'm going to zoom out a little. Oh, I'm also on the second page, which is not helpful. So yeah, so this, I believe, you fold it up into the character sheet. So as you can see there, you print it out, and you got the lines down it. But yes, emergency passporte temporary. I don't know why I attempted to say that. I don't speak French. But it's form fillable as well, so this is where you'd put stuff. Licenses for dangerous items, name, language, fluent language, etc. Stamps, visas. Here's the skill check, so this is where you'd put it all. I guess it would automatically do it. So yeah, how many skills have we got? Because I didn't really go into too much detail about that. You've got agility, alertness, charm, contacts, credit, electronics, endurance, engineering, entertainment, humanities, investigation, languages, machines. Oh, I guess Oh, and that's how you tick them as well. Sorry, I just realised with the machine. Machinery, medicine, melee, prestidigitation. Why would you need to use prestidigitation? Range combat. Tell you what, I need to zoom in even closer. Look at that. God, it's tiny writing, isn't it? Range combat, red tape, science, search, security, sneak, status, strength, subterfuge, survival, vehicles, and willpower. Story points there, vitality there. Get your complications in. Here's your abilities, so that's where you put your additional things. On there, description of stuff, what your profession is, your name, nom name, given name. I see there's no thing for pronouns. Does not surprise me. Oh, and there's a signature. That's quite cool. I mean, I know passports don't have it, but you think for a game. Yeah. But yeah, I quite like that sort of prop element of it. But yeah, let's talk about. Let me just make sure I'm on the right page. Yep, there we go. And so let's. Oh, don't freeze. Yeah, so let's just talk about what we think about Troubleshooters. I love the concept. I love how it sort of sets itself into like this sort of style, this sort of European style, the 1960s. I think having stuff like the passport, like aesthetic, is really good. I feel the writing is a little bit off in places, just because it's just repeating itself, and maybe it's because it's been translated from another language as well. Like I said before, I do know it is in French as well. I think the main mechanic is very straightforward if you've played stuff like Call of Cthulhu, or I know Rivers of London uses the same sort of skill based on that front. You know, the percentile sort of dice on that front. The pips thing is interesting. I like it. I'd like to see it in action, so maybe I will check out the stream which Charmony is on. Actually, I'll look for the name of it in a second so that other people can check it out as well. But yeah, and it feels very. Well, so the further we got through that quick start, they felt very much like, I don't know, it felt very uniform. Like, this is all the information you need to know. And I was a little bit, yeah, like I said, the language is a bit tiresome. Didn't get me excited as Rapscallion did yesterday. And then also, on top of that, there's a few bits and pieces for stuff, like reload stuff's fine. Nothing about safety tools in that quick start. And I'll say this though as well, I might be looking at an old quick start. I don't know if they've updated it recently, etc. I mean, I just had it on my drive. But I do think it's important, in regardless of what kind of quick start you're doing, that you always put a little bit about safety, because I feel like those things are like, oh, if you're killing cold blood, here's a mechanic that gets, you know, that punishes the players because they're not playing the game. And it's just like, just talk to them. Stop the game and go, hey, that's not cool. That doesn't happen in Tintin. That it only happens at a dramatic moment, you know. It felt like some of the things was like, oh, it felt like we've had this in our games, so here's a mechanic to stop it happening in your games. And I'm like, no. We're all adults here. Let's face it, adults are going to be playing this game. People for nostalgia are going to be playing this game. Although I think it actually would work really well for kids as well, especially if you're getting rid of that element of being hurt or wounded. Because Tintin is such a broad appeal to stuff, as does Asterix and all the other sort of Franco-Belgian comics. Like I said, I'm keen to know more. I kind of wish there was a little bit of history on what Octopus was, but again, I know it's a quick start, so it's just literally just taking up and going, so obviously I could read the actual core book and find out more. And I would actually have liked to know how to create a character. It feels kind of a shame that there wasn't a way to look at that other than here's some pre-gens, or at least to tell you. I think also the quick start, you know what it would have benefited from, I think, and again, I appreciate it would have been another page, but like a contents page about saying, okay, so this is, here's the main rules, here's a lot of guff that you probably don't need to know about. So that's the only thing I'd say. But I guess, again, printing out those pre-gens at the back, if they're double page, that's quite easy and useful to do. But there you go. Hello, detective. Oh, I've just finished up, my friend. I hope you're doing all right, though. I was just finishing up the Troubleshooters. I was just saying that I think it's got an interesting concept and stuff like that. There's a few bits and pieces that I didn't particularly like. There's lots of stuff about punishing players if they didn't play within the theme, and here's a mechanic for it. I'm like, just talk to them. Have your session zeros, have your lines and veils. But I'd be interested to just, like I said, a friend of ours, Charmony, on a different channel, and I'll look it up in a second what the channel is running through a playthrough of, I'm just going to go to this U-boat mystery. God, the writing is so small, isn't it? I wonder if that's because I've moved it down. But it says, a kidnapping, a map, a lost U-boat, an exciting adventure which takes you from Paris to a lost U-boat on the other side of the world. Can the adventurers figure out who is behind the kidnapping and find the secret of the lost U-boat from World War II? Spoilers, it's probably the Octopus Foundation. That's the other thing, detective. I know, I just want to say hi, lol. Fair enough. I mean, I've been barely looking at the chat, to be fair to you. But yeah, just so you know, the enemy, also the big bad organisation is called the Octopus, which I thought was quite funny. You also know the other person called Octopus in the chat as well. So yeah, there you go. And you can, like I said before, you can get lots of, there you go, some charts and blueprints of, I must have for the U-boat mystery. Oh, that'd be quite cool, looking at the actual sort of charts for the U-boat and stuff. There's some other things here as well, so like a deck of many things, so equipment. Like I said, I absolutely love these sort of sets to keep your character's passport in. So there you go. I think I would like to run it on a stream, I think. Like I said, there's some bits of it I was like, what do I know? What do I know? But thank you, everyone. Let me go to camera only. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. For a nice chill, too long didn't read tabletop RPG session of the Troubleshooters. If folks are interested, I run where? What am I rolling? It's a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast where we do lots of different systems. Currently out just now is Die, the role-playing game by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Harms and produced by Rowan Rook and Descartes. Highly recommend checking that out, but content warnings galore is what I meant to say. So that's cool. I really enjoyed that coming out. Might do some more of that. I've actually planned to read through bits of that. It is a very long book. It's about 400 pages. I don't think there's a quick start for it, unfortunately, but I do think it's an interesting one to go through. So maybe I'll do a couple of streams on that one. Depends on how I feel. It depends on if people want that sort of thing. So again, maybe like, nope, one stream is enough. So go check that out wherever you find podcasts. I also have a Discord. In Discord, I share it with myself, with Ware and DM's Book Club, with my co-host Hamilton, and we do lots of little fun events in there. We've got the rest of tonight. I'm going to have my dinner very quickly, and then we're going to do our secret film club, which is tonight. It's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was going, Everything Everywhere? Which Hamilton has not seen. It's one of my favourite films. I'm really looking forward to that. So come join us on Twitch for that. That's going to be on Hazard Stripes Twitch channel. So basically, if you've got an Amazon Prime account, you can watch along with us, or you can put us on in the background. If you've got it elsewhere, if you've got it by some other means, you can pop that on whilst we're talking, and you can hear what we're saying in between. But I'll be honest, I might not say much. I might just be watching Hamilton's reaction to things. I will be back tomorrow, I think, with another session. This is where I'm going to quickly look up what it is, because I've forgotten it completely. And the person has not got back to me. I wanted them to get back to me before the stream ends, but oh well, it's fine. It's Shiver tomorrow. Shiver the RPG. Excellent. Another horror one. Which is up for some Ennies as well. You can't vote in them anymore, but they're up for best art and best setting for their Spire Home one. So we're going to do the quick stuff for that. It is one of my favourite horror ones I've done. It's very different, so I'm very excited to read through that tomorrow. That's going to be a much later one because I have improv just before. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say promoting stuff, but just go check us out there. Let us know what you think. Would you run Troubleshooters? Have you run Troubleshooters? Check it out there. Oh, you know what I should do? I should look up that. Okay, I'll pop in maybe. Bye, where? Bye, detective. I was gonna go. Well, actually, I wanted to find out what that other stream was called. So let me just check it up. So if people want to check out the Troubleshooters, I can find out. I can easily find out. Oh, you know, when you go onto a place like what used to be Twitter. It's no longer Twitter anymore. Yes. Sign in. You think it'd already be signed in? Oh, there's X's everywhere. Cross making. No, it's not that. That's an advert. There's also an advert. Oh, where is it? Ah, there we go. Troubleshooters. It's Queen Court's Games. Queen Court Games. I will pop that. How cool is that? So yeah, check out that. I'll put it in the stream. Queen Court Games. Queenscourt.games. Where they do lots of different things. So they'll be streaming about. They're streaming the U-boat mystery, which is quite cool, and Charmony is in that, so I would recommend checking that out. Anyway, I now will leave you. I will now go and go get my dinner. Thank you so much. I will see you folks another time. There's the stream button. I'm going to wave awkwardly and say goodbye for now.